Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Unfiltered 30. I'm Ronnie, your amazing host. And I do have one crazy introduction to make on this Christmas Eve. Why don't everybody take a good look and say hello to Jackson? This is our mascot. Tiger and I picked him up this past week, and he's been an amazing addition to the family. So I'm going to apologize for the fact that I've been kind of MIA for a couple of weeks. Uh, Leading into the holidays, it's gotten a little bit crazy, and I haven't had a whole lot of time to just sit down and talk. So today, I'd like to talk about just a couple of things. You notice it's me alone. I do have some cool stuff getting ready to happen over the next couple of weeks. I think tomorrow I may do a podcast with my brother-in-law and my cousin. We may talk a little sports, probably bitch and moan a little bit about college football, talk about the NFL upcoming playoffs and what that looks like, and we'll circle back to a little bit of baseball. Additionally, next week, I do have a friend coming over who's going to talk to me about what his transition from the military has been like. He retired I guess, about 12 to 18 months ago, somewhere in that neighborhood. And uh, I think it's uber important that we talk about what that transition looks like. So I figured that that'd be a really good topic for you guys. In the next coming weeks, I have a friend of mine who uh, his son is going to come over and we're going to touch on World Cup soccer, uh, a little bit about some of the pricing problems that are going on, and also about the draws and what the next uh, couple of months look like leading into the World Cup. There was a major injury update on the U.S. side earlier this week, so there's a lot going on when it comes to that. But I do want to start today's show off with bitching and moaning a little bit. So Tiger and I decided several months ago that our queen bed in our bedroom was a little bit too small, and we needed to upgrade to a king, especially after being on the road and staying in hotels. And we had king beds, and it just was a little bit more comfortable. So we went to a reputable company, Ashley Furniture, and ordered the bed and paid, a pretty decent amount of money for the bed and the mattress and all of these things. And up to today, Christmas Eve, we ordered this the end of October. Since Christmas, it is Christmas Eve. We have had them at this house 5 different times to fix a bed. Uh, I'm going to say this, and I'll say this for the record to my tens of viewers. I will never, ever, ever do business with Ashley Furniture again. The customer service. So you go to the store and say, hey, something's wrong. The store sends you to a customer service line, which is a third party outsourced, which can't do anything for you. They send it back to the store. The store calls, and the store's like, oh, yeah, that was our third party vendor who did these things wrong. And the third party vendor, there's nobody to talk to. We talked to the store manager. They are not willing to give any numbers to district or corporate offices so that you can actually have a conversation with decision makers. So I talked to the store manager again this morning. She's like, well, I'm finally going to get the district manager involved. And there's no telling how long this is going to take. This has been going on since the end of October. Now, I'm sure Ashley's not going to be pissed off that they're losing my business, but I've told them that I'm so frustrated with their ridiculousness that I'm about to take the bed, put it back in front of the fucking store, and I'm going to stand out there with a sign that says that this customer service sucks. Do not shop with this company. I don't know if that gets attention or not, but that's about where I'm at with this. All right, so um, if you've had some experiences with Ashley Furniture specifically, feel free to send. Tiger's going to type up a lengthy email to go to the corporate offices to kick them in the shins and let them know that what we've dealt with is incredibly unsat. So, feel free to share your thoughts on that. I'm just not the happiest camper with them. And I know that I'm not the easiest customer in the world, but when you're spending good money, you expect good service and good product. And we've gotten not either at this point. Switching gears just a little bit, I do want to again apologize for the hiatus. It's been uber busy. I did send something out via Facebook about, hey, give me some questions, load me up with a couple of questions that I can answer on the podcast. Tiger and I were actually going to do she was going to interview me, but as we would say in the military, we got OBE, overcome by events. So that didn't happen, but I am going to read a couple of the questions while we're filming this right now, and I'll answer a couple. I'm probably not going to go the full 30 today. This is just a, hey, I miss you guys. I like screaming into the internet, and uh, I'm going to answer a couple of your questions. So let me pull up the old Facebook. I hope that everybody's done well. Um, I think we've gotten some pretty good responses to our podcast so far. We've gotten the most amount of views was the first one that I did with Tiger, and that's awesome. We're hoping to start to get a little bit more traction, and a little bit more consistency will lead to some more traction. So I think that'll be pretty cool. Now, I am going to start this with a joke. So you guys saw Ty. He was on the podcast probably 2 weeks ago. He might have been the last episode that we did. And if you saw the post on Facebook, he asked me if when I eat a Snickers bar, I eat it upside down so I could feel the veins on my tongue. And then there was a vertical corn eating thing. He thinks he's funny, and it is actually pretty funny. It just not what I was looking for. Uh, so Donald Smith, who I have just nothing but love for, we share a lot of time together. Not together at Moody, but we were at Moody, and our times didn't overlap. But I left and he came in, and then him and I spent a little bit of time in Korea together. I think we did about 7 months in Korea together. He was a tech sergeant, I was a senior. He said, "Leadership: what you're supposed to do versus what you should do." That's always been a struggle. Even in this civilian world now, is you never take off the hat of being somebody who gets looked up to as a leader. And it's a selfishness thing. So I'm going to go back to the Air Force of old when I was a younger dude, where I had competitions with my friends, and who was the smartest, or who could do this better, or who could do that better when it came to being uh, a POL guy or gal, if you will. And now it seems as if the entirety of the Air Force is what can I do to make myself better and make me look better than somebody else? And that's okay, but it's a selfish mentality versus what can I in competition be better at than my friends? So I always looked at leadership that way as well. You know, the number one responsibility when it comes to leadership is the people that you lead, right? I heard a quote on The West Wing once. What a guy is with no leader, or with no people that are following him, is just a guy walking around as something, paraphrased like that. Um, to actually be a leader, yeah, there are positional leaders, right? There's some people that lead with fear, and as a young tech sergeant, a seasoned staff, I think that I was that guy. I was just an asshole to be an asshole. And I think that over time, you become a little bit more sympathetic and empathetic to the people that you're leading, and you want them to like you, but at the same time, they also need to understand that there's a time and a place for those things. And it's about balancing that stuff. I think that I'll tell a funny story. When I was in Korea, it was the first probably 2 months that I was there, and we were struggling with some like operational paperwork shit, just stuff that gets you caught in the mud. And I gave a couple three mass sergeants. I said, "Hey, here's what my expectations are. Please make sure that this doesn't happen again." And they were like, "Got it, senior. We're good to go." And at the end of the day, that's kind of the end of the conversation. So the next month comes around. I think this is probably January, early February of 2015. The same thing happened. And for those of you old schoolers who know, it was a open fuel system, issuing fuel to an airplane without being sampled. And it was like the third month in a row that it happened. So I called all the master sergeants at the middle of the driver's lounge at 9 o'clock in the morning. I threw all the paperwork up in the air, and I said, if this shit happens again, I'm going to fucking fire all of you. That was probably the time in Korea that I had to yell the loudest and the most, and it set a tone. And I think that we all moved on from that and got better. Uh, I don't know if that was my most shining moment. I mean, I've got a bajillion stories about my awful leadership traits, where I might have cussed a little bit too much at someone, or tried to make them cry, or was just a general asshole for the sense of "fuck you, I outrank you," and that's just the way that it is. And I think that if you've come through those trials and tribulations, you grow as a leader, and some of it is feedback. I got kicked square, square, square in the ass, by a couple of folks about how shitty of a person and a leader I was, and you take that to heart. So, Smitty, I guess my answer to you is that, if you're a good person, you'll always choose to put other people ahead of yourself, um, and that's what good leaders do. There's a book by Simon Sinek called "Leaders Eat Last." It's the title says it all. And I think it's a really good way to start, right? If you're around with your airmen, your troops, whatever you want to call them, um, and you're at a gathering, the last people to eat are the ones who are the leaders, because that's, you let your people eat before you do. So I think that's a pretty good topic. Um, Chris Dobberton said something that made me laugh. Uh, he said, something you've always had, the moral courage to be the one to call BS and saying the uncomfortable thing instead of just being a yes man. That goes back to leadership. I think that trait is a good and a bad thing. I think once I became a senior, um, I decided that really there's nobody that can threaten to take your stripes. So, fuck it. Let's be the most honest guy in the room. I was always that way, from a staff sergeant all the way up to the time I was a chief and retired. The greatest compliment I ever received in my military career, and I'll say her name. Stephanie Ellis was the LRS commander's secretary when I was leaving Moody in 2006, 2007, and I came back to Moody in 15, and she was working in IPR, installation personnel readiness, doing deployment things. And she looked at me and she goes, "Ronnie, you haven't changed a bit since you were a staff sergeant." To me, that's a great compliment, because it just means that none of those things that I went throughout my entire career, being a staff sergeant and a tech and then a master and being promoted to senior and being in charge of this group of people that has a responsibility, none of that ever went to my head. At least I don't think it did. And I was still, and still am, rough around the edges. I believe in telling truth to power. Um, I think I've gotten a little bit better at it, in the sense that I don't just say bullshit now. I might beat around the bush a little bit more and sugarcoat it. But I think that, I appreciate that, Chris. I think that that's 100% true. And most of the time when I would say those things, it was incredibly unfiltered. Uh, a quick story on that, and some of you were in the room and will laugh about it. At a large conference in the late 20 teens, I might have stood up in the middle of the whole thing and just put everybody on blast really quick, and it did not go over so well, and I still haven't talked to a couple of those guys, but at the end of the day, I thought I did what was right at the time for the people that we were trying to take care of. So that was uh, a pretty good story, and I could really dive deep into that. I think that we're gonna try to do some just specific POL related content in the not so distant future. There's a reunion in March that I may or may not be able to go to. But even if I don't, I'm going to try to figure out how to get some of the old timer retired chiefs, fuels officers. I think Frank Reckner is going to be there. Um, I saw a couple of names on the list that made me smile. Some of the old timers. Maybe I could get them to call in for a few 10-15 minute conversations about how the career field has changed, maybe where it's going, and that kind of stuff. So POL related content's going to come. Um, I think that, there's some good stuff. Uh, let's see. I'm going to answer maybe one or two more questions. Matt Giffen sent me a few. Matt was a guest, probably about a month ago. He's the Air Force guy who's transitioning to the Navy, who's got God, just a completely different perspective on things. I'm trying to find his text right now. Matt, where the hell are you? Matt. Here we go. Let's see. I'll go with the one that's off military topic. His question was, and if you don't know, I am an avid golfer. Notice I said avid, not good. So he came up with a golf question. He said, "Golf humbles everyone. What has it taught you about ego?" Number one, that you can't have one on the golf course. Um, for those of you that don't know or don't play the game of golf, it is very humbling. The ball's stationary. You think that it's easy to hit, and you do all of these things, and then you think that you've made the perfect swing, and the ball goes in the 100% opposite direction where you want it to. Uh, with that being said, you could go out there with my game is dialed in, and I'm gonna shoot the perfect score for me today, and then wind up shooting 165 strokes, which is crazy. Because the game does humble, and I think that you do have to put your ego in check, especially when you're playing for money. And we're not talking big stakes here, but every now and again you play $1 a hole, and you're out $18 at the end, and you thought you were having a good day, and you got the shit kicked out of you by somebody who was having a better day. So I think that when it comes to the game of golf specifically, you got to put your ego aside. You've got to just go out there and take the punches as they come. Uh, what's the quote from a planning perspective is it's all great to have a plan until you get punched in the face, and that's the game of golf. You go out there and you say, "Hey, on the first hole, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hit a great drive off the tee, and I'm going to have, this club into the green, and I hope to just make a five or a bogey and get the round started off just right." And then you hit the first ball out of bounds into the water, and the next thing you know, you're in your pocket for a second ball, and your chances of making bogey are fucking slim to none. So, um, it's good to plan, and it's good to have a good range session and feel good about your game, and then you step on the first tee and it all goes south, and you have to roll with the punches, and you put your ego in check, uh, until you make that one shot on the 18 holes that just you absolutely pured, it went exactly where you wanted it to, and then you start talking all the shit, and then on the next swing it goes south again. So that's what golf does to you, and I do appreciate playing the game, and it's a challenges, and honest, it's a microcosm of life. There's ups, there's downs, there's plateaus, there's kick square in the grundle package, and sometimes it's the highest of highs, but then followed right by the lowest of lows. And it only lasts for 4 hours, where life is a lot more complicated and a lot longer than that. But it is a 100% a microcosm of life, and I do love the game for that reason. It's very humbling. I'll leave his last question till the end. Um, there was one other question on the Facebook that I was going to address. So there's a lot of talking in this about uh, like what the retirement looks like, and getting to 100% VA disability, and some of the things that go into that. And then Brian Krieger sent some stuff about the Fisher House of the Emerald Coast, which I'm going to reach out to him and talk about um, for further episodes. But there was one that caught my eye. It's in today's modern era. What are some good reasons to join? So, if I was a recruiter, how would I get you to join the United States military? Not the Air Force at large, but the DOW. Um, I don't know the answer to that question, and it's an unbelievable question, Jacob Disher, because the military that I joined is not the same military that you guys live in now. In 1992, and I'm dating myself, when I joined, there were a lot of intrinsic benefits to being in the military. And I can expand on these. Like, every Air Force base was its own little city. You had a library and a movie theater, and you can, they had clubs, the Airmen's, the NCO, and the Officers Club, where there were different places to have dinner. And as time has gone on, our budget shrink, and things happen from a budgetary standpoint that you can't just all of that stuff isn't sustainable. And oh, by the way, the competition outside the gate with places like Walmart and Target kind of drive that, you know, the commissary or the BXs might not be the the cheapest route anymore. So what's happened is that the military has become much more of a job than it used to be. Um, even housing on the base is privatized. So it's run by a third party company that bought up all of the housing, and they pay a premium for you to stay there. And there's no back in the day. Me and my roommate, when I was at Hickam, and yes, we did have roommates. We had room inspections every month, and you were uh, we won room of the month probably, I don't know, maybe 4 quarters in a row, him and I, and it was a pride thing. And at the same ceremony where they gave us the room of the month from the brigadier general installation commander, they also did the yard of the month for housing because everything was run by the installation. So from a budgetary standpoint, that's all changed. Most bases, and I'll say most, not all, but most bases don't have those intrinsics anymore. You don't have a library, you don't have a bowling alley. The NCO club or the club, if you will, is only open certain days for certain events. Um, when I got to McGuire in 1996, there was a bar on base called Pudgy's, and we were frequent flyers, and like we had like our own table in the back of the room that we all just sat at. It was the POL table with supply people. I don't think that exists anymore. So if I were a recruiter, I guess I would have to look and see what things, because even a retirement system he's changed. My nephew just joined the army, and I believe he's in I guess I'd call it a 401k system versus what I retired from was the 20-year retirement. High three. Uh, you take your high 3 years, and they divide it by a gonculator, and you wind up with whatever you wind up with. So I'm not even sure what the retirement system looks like, but I don't think it's as lucrative as it was when I was in. So I don't know how to answer that because there's a couple of different options, Jacob. It could be the intrinsic, I want to serve my country, which is good. There could be the extrinsic, I want to change my situation. And it could be, hey, we offer good college benefits and a little job opportunity. And, I'm going to get a trade or a skill that's transferable to the outside. I will say that I think that the military is much more a young person's game than it is mine for sure. But I'll have to ponder that one. I thought it was a good question. I thought it at least deserved a bit of thought uh, and some discussion. And I'll leave the last one from Matt. Matt tossed this one to me, and I thought it was a good one. He said, "What does a good life look like to you now compared to 20 years ago?" So it's 20 years ago. I'd have been 31, 19, 30, 19. Jesus. 20 years ago would have been 2006. Still at Moody. I was a tech sergeant, and I think my entire world revolved around work. I had 2 kids that were amazing and still are amazing. I just talked to both of them yesterday. Um, but I was trying to be the best POL guy that I ever wanted to be. And everybody who knew me from when I was a senior airman, I always said that I was going to retire as either a senior airman or a senior master sergeant. And I always felt that I was closer to senior airman because my mouth always got in the way. Um, but there was a significant change that was going to happen in 2007. I became a PME instructor for 4 years, and that's really kind of what changed my trajectory in the Air Force a little bit. My good life now consists of coming home, spending time with Tiger, and now we have the little addition, and he's been nothing short of spectacular. And she is just a fucking rock star. She puts up with my craziness and allows me to do this shit. Um, this wouldn't have flown 20 years ago. It was kind of go, go, go. Got to be someplace and do the thing, and the everything's on a deadline and all of that stuff. Now, we're looking to see what our final place that we plant our flag is. We've got a couple ideas, and I don't think it's going to be New Jersey. It's going to be a warmer climate where I could play golf a hell of a lot more, especially this time of year. Probably a place where Tiger could put her toes in the sand a lot more and a lot closer. And a place where we can, uh, golf in the morning, beach in the afternoon, wine by a fire at night, rinse and repeat over and over again. Uh, if you would have asked me 20 years ago if that was my thoughts, I would have said, hell no. We've got to, be close to the thing to do the stuff. And I don't think any of that is true anymore. I think that um, want to slow it down and just enjoy the 500 or so years that we have left before, they give us the good dirt nap. Obviously, I don't think I'm going to live 500 years, but 450 wouldn't be bad. So I will do this kind of episode again, and I thank everybody for the questions. I really uh, looked at them last week, and then kind of got overcome by events, and then I just said, to hell with it. I'm going to bitch about Ashley Furniture, and I'll fire this up and talk about stuff today. Um, I think tomorrow I'll probably film an episode on sports. Um, and then we'll let things unfold over the next week or so, and then I'm really going to try to come up with a consistent battle rhythm so I could get this out on a pretty regular schedule. But I do want to thank you guys all for listening through the first 5 or 7 or 8 episodes. um, it's been a fun time to kind of to do this, and I'm open to any topics. I'm really trying to stay apolitical in this, even though politics is everywhere. um, And I do want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope that our uh, viewership or listenership grows a little bit, and that we can get a message out to the wider group of folks that, we touch, veterans and Air Force folks, and just regular people who want to talk about regular shit. And eventually I'm going to try a call in where we'll live stream and see if we get a couple of calls. Maybe we'll do a fucking Fun with Flags episode. We'll see. But I thank you guys again for listening. Have a Merry Christmas, and we are going to see you soon out here.